Good morning. Today we're taking a look at one of the most broken builds in the Slormancer, the Evasion Stacking Huntress build. And as you can see, we have 10 million hit points and 200k unreserved right now. This is rapidly changing as the game attempts to calculate the infinite loop that's going on here. Now let me show you what this looks like in a Wrath 10+100 battlefield. As you can see, we're one-shotting pretty much everything and clearing the next rooms as well. It's kind of hard to see the DPS, but in the bottom right you can see that it's multiple billions. Fluctuating between 2 and 3 right now, and that's mostly down to the monsters not having enough life. It can scale a lot higher than that in the Great Forge. I think the highest I've seen on my character right now is 12 or 13 billion when trying to scale the life on the Forge. But yeah, you really don't need this much DPS for anything in the game currently. So this is a future-proof build, I guess. Unless they nerf it. It'll probably get nerfed, just due to how broken it feels. Like, the math shouldn't work like that, maybe. I don't know. My highest ancestral damage hit there was 1.5 billion. You can push this a lot higher with different gear choices. Alright, before I can continue with the guide, I need to explain how the build actually works. So we're stacking evasion on our gear. We have really big evasion on every piece of gear. We input that into the Evasive Magic passive, which gives a ton of max mana. We then input that into the bow, which gives life instead of mana, and also sets our max mana to 1. Now there's a few branches from this point. We get a bunch of free elemental damage based on 15% of our max life, which also gives us elemental resistance from these two. One is a passive, one is an Ancestral Legacy point. Yes, we also reserve 98% of our life with 4 points in Auramancer by using these 3 auras. And then 95% of our missing life, read reserved life, will give evasion again. Now this evasion feeds back into evasive magic, and the loop keeps going like this until it hits some kind of cap. I'm not sure what is capping it, but it's definitely looping around a bit, because we are getting millions of hit points. So now I've explained the loop. Where does the damage come from? Well, that is also coming from missing life through the Savagery 45 passive, which scales max raw damage equal to missing life. And that is just going to be an insane number. We're also taking advantage of Primordial Malediction on the bow by using the activation rune by Fulgurorn. So if you have 1 max mana, you only need to spend a tiny amount of mana to trigger, which allows you to use high constraint runes very easily. All you need to do is have an aura that drains mana per second and compensate with 1 piece of gear that gives mana recovery, or mana regen rather, to outweigh this. And that'll basically give you permanent rune uptime. And now we're also able to cast our skills because we use the legendary ring effect, Crimson Pact, to allow us to use life to cast. Now, let's take a look at the gear and the stats menu. We have this helmet with lots of evasion. We have this amulet, which has grafted onto it Vestment of the Wraith. Now, this is a key item. This is really important to the loop. It converts, or it gives evasion based on your missing life, rather. Every piece of gear will have big evasion stats on them, but the only ones that are really mandatory when it comes to legendaries is Vestment of the Wraith, the Immense Vitality Aura, and the Crimson Pact Ring. So these are, I believe these are both chest armor effects, so you need to graft them. The ring is easy. But yeah, let's just look through all the gear. I'll also provide a link to the planner in the description of the video, so you don't have to pause or anything. And look at our stats. 27 million raw damage, or average skill damage rather. 8 million elemental. 11.8 million health. Now, a weird quirk of this is every time the game updates, these values will change. So I'm changing which item is highlighted, or which stat rather. And it's changing my health because it's doing the recalculation. I can just keep doing this and getting different numbers every time, so it's a bit wonky that way. But as you can see, we're hovering around 99.9% chance to dodge. I've seen it surpass 99.9, but usually it's around 99.8 somewhere. And we have 98% mitigation of elemental damage. I've also got not fully capped Shadow and Fire Assist, but decent. We want to counter these burns and the Shadow Confusion debuff. The thing is, you also counter this with Evasion, so I never really get these applied to me. This is just a safeguard for really bad luck. Tenacity, same thing there. We probably don't need it, because we're evading everything. I just like having 100% tenacity on my builds. For the rune setup, I'm using Activation Rune of Fulgurorn, which takes advantage of me not having any mana, or just having one max mana rather. This will trigger constantly, and you can pretty much have full uptime on any rune you want. I decided to go with the Nimble Warrior because it has really high constraints and really powerful effects. So we're really taking advantage of the cheap activation here. This will basically have permanent uptime and give a ton of extra critical strike damage and ancestral strike damage, mainly. As well as chance and primary skill damage. Like, this is massive. The enhancement rune is just the effect booster one from Hagen, which further increases this. And we're taking advantage of one more mechanic here using this glove effect. Whenever you cast a primary or secondary skill while your mana is full, our mana is always full at 1 out of 1. It has 100% ancestral strike chance but consumes all your mana. So we basically always have 100% ancestral strike chance. Every crit will be an ancestral, pretty much. And that is also really synergetic with this bow, or rune rather. Lots of ancestral strike damage. Moving on to the attributes. The most important thing on the screen is the 45 Savagery. You absolutely cannot play this build without the 45 Savagery. We're also taking a bunch of Fury, mainly because it stacks Evasion, or gives an Evasion bonus, and a little bit of crit chance. It just has some nice stuff for the build. And we get some Ancestral Strike chance from Zeal. I'm not sure if the Ancestral Strike chance on gear or attributes is actually necessary since we have those gloves. Like, there might be edge cases where we still need it, but I don't know. Alright, this is our Ancestral Legacy tree. We have to path to this aura in order to activate our rune. Now this takes us through Air Conditioner, but be careful. Do not enable Air Conditioner, because that will break the being at full mana mechanic for the gloves. So do not enable this, but do enable Neria's Shield. Now we're taking a bunch of elemental damage on the way to this node, which gives more elemental damage equal to 15% of my max life. And we're taking this aura for the life lock as well. And 4 points in Auramancer. And this aura with our blue Ancestral Stone. So this reserves 39% with 4 points in Auramancer. This reserves 20%. And Immense Vitality also reserves 39%, which totals to 98%, which is probably the optimal amount of reservation we can have. Moving on to skills and specializations. We have to play as the Architect of Death, the totem build, because of evasive magic. Now this is the cornerstone of the build. If I turn that off, you can see what happens to my life and stuff. We're back to 13k with 262 unreserved. We can't have that. So let's keep this on. This is definitely required. There's not a whole lot else that's required. Force Transmission gives a lot of elemental resist, so that's pretty strong. Totems of Renewal will give you a little bit of extra max life, which then also feeds into the loop for every totem. And we're proccing those with From Bones to Ballista. So this will spawn ballistas. We never actually cast this manually. It just spawns from us using our primary or secondary skill. I really don't think you need to specialize the same way that I did other than that. Like, these 4 nodes are pretty good. But when it comes to skills in general, you can play whatever skill you want with whatever setup you want on this build, because it's scaling so much damage that you can just convert into anything, or just put into any skill. But I decided to go with the classic Arrow Shot, because it's super fun. We have Arrow Shot with capped out Fork, Pierce, and Rebound. So it always rebounds, it always pierces, and forks once. And has a chance to fork a second time from this thing. That just leads to projectile spam of death all over the screen. I'm also using Immortal Arrow just for the Wandering Arrow. I don't really think about this much. It's there. It does something for a single target that we don't really need. You really don't care about your secondary skill at all in this build. Just use Arrow Shot. Or whatever you like. Like I said, you can scale any of these skills. Use any kind of skill setup here, except you need to be Architect of Death. But for the primary and secondary, experiment. Try whatever you like. Now, a quick note about the ultimatums. I decided to go with the Splendid Horizon for the damage to elites. It doesn't really matter for this build, but whatever you decide to go with, make sure it's something that you're not stacking on your gear or anywhere else. So in this case, this is the only modifier I have to damage to elites. The ultimatums will never stack with anything else of the same type, so this will be the only modifier to that. Depending on what skill choices you make, you could also go with other ultimatums. Adapt it to your gear and skill set. Alright, that's pretty much the end of the guide section of this video, but I will leave a link to the planner in the description so you can check out all the details at your leisure. Now, I'm going to move on to demonstrating just how powerful this build is. There's basically no content in this game that this build will not absolutely demolish. Since I started gearing this, I actually have never died, and I've never even seen my health go down from a monster hitting me. They practically never hit you, and when they do, it'll be heavily mitigated. And on the off chance that some large hit gets through, it would have to be a physical hit, like skill damage, because armors are only low stats. But on the off chance that that happens, Astoria's last stand will save you anyway. Now, to demonstrate the power of this build, I'm gonna bully an old man with 2 hats. We can pretty much stand in everything here. And we don't have to aim or anything. There we go. Old man bullied successfully. The biggest hit I took was 362 damage. Let's also do the Slormancer real quick. Now this guy has a special mechanic that reduces your life to 1. You could get around it by putting on the Thornbite rune, but I'm gonna YOLO this and just recover my health before any hits happen. As you can see, my health pretty much immediately recovered anyway after the reduction to 1. Same thing there. We'll just activate the breaches. We don't care about dodging anything. We'll simply shoot, activate breaches, and tank. And he should be down. And the music bugged out. It's repeating itself. Defeated again. Adam trained you well, indeed. The highest damage taken there was 74. I got hit by 74. 474, rather. Now, let's do quite possibly the toughest boss in this game, which has a ton of fire dots and insane elemental modifiers, which we will completely ignore because of our extremely high evasion and fire resistance. We'll pretty much never have any burns on us, and we'll also just never take any big hits. The hardest part of this whole thing is navigating the graveyard layout. I'm using the minimap to navigate because I can't really see anything otherwise. There we go, next floor. I'm sure you're noticing that my life is fluctuating wildly. Like, it's sometimes as low as 3 million, and then it goes up slowly towards 12, and sometimes even reaching 15 million. Well, that's just the quirk of the recalculation going on with this weird loop of evasion and life. It never really puts you in any danger, though. Even at the lowest point of the life pool, it's still way too much to be a problem. Alright, let's delete this boss. Oh, he's gone. Easy. And what do I get this time? I get another crown. I'll take it. My total damage taken was 0. I never got hit at all. Alright, now I want to hear from you. What is the most broken build you've played in Slormancer so far? Give me all the juicy details. For me, it's got to be this one, personally. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great rest of your day. I will leave you with some Forge footage if you want to keep watching for a bit. I'll include the last 20 or so levels of the Forge, where I try to take life modifiers to make the monsters tankier, including the life curse. Alright, there you have it. The highest damage I took in that entire forge was 6,450. And the total damage was 6,546. So that one hit is actually probably the biggest hit I've seen this character ever take. And that should tell you a lot about just how tanky it is. And even that is not even scratching the unreserved health at all. So it's completely safe. Anyway, thank you guys again for watching. If you stuck through that entire forge sequence, I appreciate you even more. And if you want to leave a like on the video or comment on it, that would also help me out a lot. Either way, I hope you have a great rest of your day and that this video helps you somehow. Bye for now.